So second installment of my little handstand tips, hoo-ha. Today we're going to talk about actually jumping in. God, I'm such a sweaty cow today. It's so hot outside, so I apologize for... Anyway, I want to talk about jumping in. You remember from last week, we were talking about the hands and elbows and shoulders and stacking your body. So try and get the shoulders over the knuckle, and I mean, if you've got super flexible hamstrings, get as close to your body as you get your body as close, like your hips as stacked over your shoulders as you can. I don't have super flexible hamstrings, so I tend to start a little bit further out. But jumping in. So the first thing I often see when I teach handstands is people jump with the wrong leg. And with that, I don't mean they've chosen the wrong leg to jump up with. I mean that they're jumping up, and instead of jumping with the leg on the ground, they're putting all the effort into this lifted leg. So it starts looking like something like this. Ugh! And they don't get very far. Instead, this leg is just kind of following. And this leg, what's important is think of a spring, like a mattress spring. You want your leg to be like that. So if you just have your leg like this, you're not going to get very far. If you get up on your tippy toes, suddenly got a little bit more movement. And if you bend the knee as well, now we're going. Now you have some jump. Now you have some power in getting up there. So you're going to stack your shoulders, stack your hips as much as possible. This leg is lifted and it's just kind of doing its thing. And then you jump. Whoop. And you're up. So, secondly, and this is going to sound a little bit, I don't know how much sense this is going to be. When I show you, it's going to make sense. Jump with your front body. I see a lot of people jumping into handstand using their back body. And when I say using your back body, I mean kind of using all the muscles in your back, basically. That was obvious. And yeah, your glutes have to work as well. I mean, I'm a big advocate of strong glutes. So your glutes are working when you're getting into a handstand. But what I really want you to visualize is jumping with your front. Think pushing instead of pulling. So your body is like this, it's going up here. Imagine if you push it up instead of pulling it up. So pushing it involves the core. So you have to engage the core, and it is very much of a kind of a visualization here, especially if you're not used to the movement yet. So I just want you to really think, I am pushing myself up in this handstand, not pulling. Use the core. A lot of handstand is visualization. If you don't visualize yourself doing it, you're not going to. As with many things in life. We can talk about that at a later point. So I'm just going to show you, again, what I see when people are not engaging their front body and pushing themselves into a handstand. It looks like this. And again, banana. Everything is hanging out. Instead, think of these lower ribs. What you don't want is them flaring out. You want them tucked in, down towards the top of your hips. So imagine you've got like a little red thread going from your hip points to your lower ribs here. I don't want you to break that little red line when you jump up. So instead of that banana, it starts looking more like this. So you see it's a lot more controlled. It looks lighter. And it's much stronger handstand. Last thing I want to talk about is once you get up there, find a balancing. You want your balance to be as close to the ground as possible. So ideally, and when you look at these like incredible like circus leg handstanders, you see all they do, they are so still, you can see their fingers literally moving, and this is where their balance is. So you want the balance as close to the ground as possible. We are not all Cirque du Soleil performers, so you might balance with your fingers in your hands, and then you might move it up a little bit in your elbows, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Maybe also a little bit in your shoulders. You've got moving back and forth a little bit. That's also okay. Once you start moving it all the way up to your hips, so this is when you start wobbling out. You lose the handstand. So just be aware, we want to keep the balance as close to the ground as possible. Now, you might have noticed when I just jumped into that handstand, I got up, there was actually a little bit of bend in my elbows, and then I straightened out. As soon as I got up, I went, ooh. The reason for that is I have tight shoulders. I just have tight, especially this shoulder is tight. It's from having a child on my hip for years. It's just what happens. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me less of a handstander. So don't be too attached to this picture of perfection that you see a lot on Instagram and all that. It is okay to put a little bit of movement. As I was talking about last week, we want to avoid this, but doing this to, number one, find your balance, or you've got some tight shoulders and you need to actually pay attention to it, so be it. It's fine. So you see, I'll just show you again, in case you missed it, how I do. So you see, there's a little bit of movement in my elbows here, and then I straighten up. As soon as I get out, everything's working. I'm using my butt, I'm using my core, I'm pushing the ground away, and it's fine. But I do have that little moment there, because every time I come into a handstand, I need to tell myself, Nina, get on with those shoulders, don't just hang out. And that's just how my handstands are. I'm not ashamed to admit it. So don't be too hard on yourself, but just understand, when you get into the handstand, first thing I want you to think about is, get extra strong, extra long in that handstand. That's all I'm giving you today. I will be back next week with more tips. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to ask any questions and enjoy. Feel free to tag me in your handstands. I want to see.